Okay, I'm going to jump back to our file structure. And I'm going to bounce up to our base folder for our project. And here in the CSS folder, we have this file called styles.css.map. Now you've been seeing these since we started working with SASS. And if you're working with the latest version of SASS, which at the time of this video is 3.4, then these map files are being generated by default. In earlier versions of SASS, you had to turn on mapping in the configuration. Now, what the mapping does is it takes every line of CSS that's in the resulting CSS files and it maps it to its original source in the SASS. Now, on its own, that doesn't mean much, but if you're in a browser that supports maps like this, like Chrome, then it makes life a whole lot easier for tracking down which styles in the SASS are responsible for the CSS that's being used in the browser. So earlier on in this series, what we did was we linked up our local files with this site. Now, of course, the way that we're opening this file is by double-clicking it, and of course it's a local file. You can see that the URL here starts with file, but Chrome still treats it like a real web page. And what we did was we went to the Sources tab, and we linked up our local project folder with this website. Now, the result of this has meant that we've been able to edit our index.html and styles.css files directly in the browser, which has been nice sometimes, especially because we get live previews for our CSS when we edit it. A cascading benefit of having done this earlier in the series is that now, when we inspect elements, for example, we inspected this header here, you can see that snippet title here is linked up with our snippet.scss. Now this is a partial that's being included in our styles.scss file and then being rendered into our actual CSS that's being used in the browser. So this snippet.scss is far removed from the CSS the browser's using. However, if we click on this link right here, it opens up snippet.scss and it shows us the location of the SASS that's responsible for rendering this CSS. So if we wanted to change this, I'm going to make the font size 44 and we saved it. You notice that the text has changed. Just in case you didn't notice it, let's change this back to 14. I'll save it. And it takes just a moment for the watch to render the new CSS file. And when it does, the browser knows to reload the CSS and we get a virtually live preview as we edit our SASS. Now, if you're just starting with SASS and all this is new to you, this may not be nearly as exciting as it is to me. To me, this is like a rainbow glitter unicorn that's just jumping in my head and turning my brain to a giant glow stick. And in a way, you can think of this whole series as just some excuse to get to the point where I can show you this and have it be meaningful to you. So I'm going to undo the changes that I made to the font size here and we'll put it back to 24. I'll save it and you see that change up here. And so now, one of the things that was originally a problem in working with SASS, which was trying to figure out what SASS was responsible for what CSS, it has a solution. And the solution is a combination of the source maps that are being rendered by SASS as we watch our SASS and it gets rendered into CSS, and also using a browser that supports this.